Let's get this thing rolling.
Okay.
I know I'm ready to start it. Okay, so welcome to HRC in January. And if I can get to my agenda, I think first item up is to give some meeting info for those online.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Please silence your cell phones to minimize distractions during the meeting. When the Chair calls for public comment, please approach the podium to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak during public comment. Once your name is called, please unmute and turn on your camera to provide your comments. Please state your name and zip code before speaking. The city reserves the right to turn videos off or mute participants. The primary format for accessing or participating in this meeting is in person at City Hall. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored. If you have any trouble, the meeting can be viewed on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Now we'll take a roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Hernly,
Present.
Commissioner Klein,
Present.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Present.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Present.
and Commissioner Dearborn. Present. And we're all present. Wonderful. We still have one open position. We are 6 of 7. Looking for a 7th.
Historian.
Yes, a historian. So next, we will go to A, general business, and I'm happy to report, being it January and the new format of the commission, we will elect officers in this meeting right now. And I would entertain a motion to elect the chair, and I also would like to make a motion to elect Commissioner Buchanan as chair.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Do we vote separately on each one? Okay, so then we'll take a vote on the chair position held by me currently, and Commissioner Buchanan is the nominee. So since we're all present, we can just vote by hands and ayes. So
We should close nominations.
we have
We
one.
don't take any more nominations.
Oh, are there any other nominations?
Okay.
Then we'll close nominations.
Thank you.
And we'll take a vote by sign. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. And our chair is now Commissioner Buchanan.
Yay. Ooh, right.
Oh, so do I do that or do you do that?
You're the
No.
chair.
Oh, okay.
Starting right now.
So I will accept nominations for the vice chair. Hearing none, I would like to nominate Joy Coleman as vice chair. Love you, girl.
All right.
Sound too cozy.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, close nominations. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, let's get the show on the road. Communications.
We do have a couple of communications for you this evening from the State Historic Preservation Office. They are for nominations for the Lewis Crowder Cemetery and also for the Fox House. The Fox House is actually in Lawrence and the cemetery is in Douglas County. And I hope you had a chance to look at the nominations. Part of your role as a certified local government historic Preservation Board is to review National and Kansas Register nominations for accuracy or information that should be included, that's not included, and to make comment if you so choose. Historically, the commission, if they agree with the nomination and find the property worthy, has sent a letter of support to the Kansas Sites Board of Review in support of the nomination.
If you got a question.
I would move enthusiastic support for both the Lewis Crowder Cemetery as well as the Stephen Fox House.
I'm going to table that motion real quick. I do have comments for the Fox House. Well, I also have a comment for the Lewis Crowder Cemetery. I really appreciate the pictures that were in there. The times that I've been out there, it did not look that clean, so I applaud whoever got those, A, cleaned it up, and B, got the photographs. My comments to the Fox House are related to it is being nominated under criteria C for its architecture. The Comfort House, I think, is a newer subtype being introduced to the East Lawrence neighborhood idea of the pattern and the development. So I think it should be more clearly stated as a subtype and not as its own type, just to be more cohesive with the multiple property listing and the other documents that are out there that are available for use. Also on page 21, on the floor plans, I think if they used more standard documentation on the staircases, it would be more telling what the actual staircase configuration is. Specifically on where it goes up, if the air, because it says up twice, where one of them should say down. And then also, what else? Oh, you're missing the N for north. That might be more artistic than, more subjective. There is at least a north arrow. Same thing on page 22 for the second floor on the stair configuration. If you can move the division line, like, is it a straight up staircase or is it a winder? Is it shown the best way it can be graphically articulated? And then on the last page on the change over time, I think that needs to be cited where it came from. And also, if you use the most recent version of where you got that change over time graphic, it's been updated so all the lots are actually scaled to each other. But you should at least cite where it came from. And I mean, it still works, but when on the final version, it's all the historic plots are scaled so they're more easily understood in a linear way. So, and if you don't have that, I can get it for you.
Okay. So the, looks like it's from the East Lawrence Neighborhood Association, a document from that.
Yeah, it's that Living in East Lawrence, that Dennis Demmer.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, that's all. So I obviously recommend both of these. That's my take on it. Does anybody else have comments, questions?
Are we able to motion to have the commission or city staff write a letter in support with these, like, small changes added? Is that allowed?
Yes,
Okay.
and what I'll do is I'll actually get in touch with the person that wrote the nomination and give them the comment from the HRC and give them the opportunity to change that before the final gets sent to, that's why the state notifies the certified local governments well in advance of the packet being sent to the review board, and that's one of the reasons why, so they can get those comments in. So we'll send the comments. We can put them in the letter if that's your preference, or we can just send them the comments so that they have them, since they're more cleanup type things as opposed to, no, John Scott did not live there in 1843, you know?
I do have a question. I noticed it was only marked for local nomination.
Which one?
The Fox House. Yeah, it's only listed as local. Was there potentially?
Well, it's local significance,
Right.
but
Oh, okay.
nomination.
I thought it was a state nomination.
No.
It is.
Okay,
But, I mean, you,
but local significance, yeah,
But local
got it. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Okay. So since there was a motion on the table, do we need to
Revise the motion.
Jen, before I made comments, had a motion, so do we need to revise, does she need to revise that?
You
to-
can move a friendly amendment.
Okay, I'll make this clean. I'd like to revise the motion on the table to include the editorial changes discussed to the Fox House nomination, and then submit a letter of recommendation for both Lewis Crowder Cemetery and the Fox House. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 So I'm going to abstain on this.
Abs-
Okay.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0, or 5 with 1 abstention. Okay. Is there any disclosure of ex parte communications? Nope. Declaration of abstentions?
So I'm going to abstain from the consent agenda. We have a project on there, and then I'm going to abstain from item 2 on the public hearing items.
Okay. Committee reports.
we have no committee reports this evening.
Okay. So consent agenda, item 1. Confirming the attached design review applications. Does anybody have questions?
I wanted to make one comment before we do a move here. 831 was the property of Lemuel King, who was a prominent African-American entrepreneur in Lawrence, and he had his livery stable, his house, and later King's Hotel on that property. And someday in the future, I would really urge us to have a flat marker placed on that property in the middle of that square in honor of him, naming him and naming what that property was. For those of you who don't know, the reason it's called Vermont Street Station is because it was a Skelly gas station in 1929, and that's where it got its rectangular shape. And so that's why they call it the Vermont Street Station. But I really feel strongly that Lemuel King should be honored and celebrated on that property, because there's a lot of stuff happened there.
Thank you for that history. Is there a discussion, questions, nomination?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? No. Passes 5-1 with 1 abstention. Okay. Number, public comment. Is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda tonight? Is there anybody online? Public comment? Okay. Then we will close public comment, move on to public hearing items. Number 1, historic markers for Harry Nick Rice and Rick Tiger Dowdell.
Maybe. Good evening, Commissioners. Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. You did have these markers before you in November, and we discussed the markers and the text on the markers, and there were a couple changes that needed to be made, and I'm going to do a shout out to Steve with the Watkins again, because he's the one that made the text changes and made everything still fit on a size that we can hopefully produced and installed. And I'm just going to show the visual real quick. These were added to your packet late, so if you need additional time, that's fine. I also want to talk again a little bit. So this is the one for Nick Rice, and we finally got the 79 changed to a 70. Thank you, Stan. And we did add for Commissioner Klein a little bit of information in the last paragraph that describes what started that 4-day period in Lawrence. And so this would be the final markup for Nick Rice's marker. And then we did change the photo for Tiger Dowdell's marker, and I also put in the packet the newspaper article that this photograph came from. What's not on the photograph on the proposed marker is the circle where they think the actual site was, and that was in the newspaper article. So we'll probably include that information with the QR code information because we don't know who exactly or why the circle is there. They just say that's where it happened and it doesn't have a reference. So, but this photo is from the Journal World. And then we also made the changes to the last paragraph on this one. Just to briefly go back over that QR code that you saw on the bottom right-hand corner will take you to a link at the Watkins Museum of History for their Days of Rage online exhibit. It already has this page as part of the online exhibit, and then we'll be adding to this online exhibit Chris Rice, who did the majority of the research for the Nick Rice nomination for the marker, has allowed us to put his paper that I was on your agenda a long time ago. And also the marker committee used that paper when they were looking at the markers. And so he has agreed to allow us to have that accessible through the website, which is very kind of him, and I appreciate that. And then we're also hoping to get some oral interviews and talk about other ways that things, not just of what was happening, but different perspectives. And so that is also one thing that we hope over the next year or so to get some different voices on this page with the information. Just real quickly, this is what the marker will look like. It's a standard, we call them National Park Service markers because that's what you see in most parks. And then again, the location for Nick Rice, it will be in front of the water tower area because this is all maintained by the city, and it will be helpful for them to be able to maintain the marker. And this kind of X marks the spot, being very careful to stay out of the utilities. And then for Tiger Dowdell's marker, we have that proposed location on 10th Street. I don't know if you saw in the newspaper article where it had the little path dashed out for the route that the vehicles took that night. So 10th Street was part of the story. The reason the group chose the 10th Street, and we talked a little bit about this in November, was because the amount of right-of-way that's located for us to put the marker and be able to have people stop and interact with the marker, which we could not find that space on 9th Street. And so the hope is that we will get more people to stop and interact with the marker if there's an actual space for it. And then this is showing that space here. So staff is recommending that the Historic Resources Commission send a recommendation to the Lawrence City Commission for the attached marker text, marker type, and marker placement for historic markers for Harry Nick Rice and Rick Tiger Dowdell. And I am going to ask Chris Rice to speak in just a moment because he found a couple of little nuances in the text that you may want to consider, but he does not want to slow the process down. So we can go ahead and move forward and get these on the City Commission agenda. So I know it's a little out of order, but right now, if you could hear from Chris Rice and his concerns about the text, and then you can take public comment if that's appropriate for the commission.
Sure.
And I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
I have a quick question before Mr. Rice speaks. On the consent, or I'm sorry, on the agenda packet that I've seen, it had the old text and images, and so I couldn't see just looking at the screen there, but all the changes, like the changes in the date, I saw that the picture was updated, but we were able to update it from 1979 to 1970?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And then it's the bottom, and did we not get the correct ones added?
I think it still shows what we looked at in the November.
Oh, the 79, but the paragraph, the last paragraph is correct. That's the change to both markers. So I'll double check. Let me go back to my,
I grabbed it from the email, so I don't know if you got the email.
I received the email, but I'm looking at it from what was
on the packet. Let me double check the packet while you listen to Mr. Rice, and then we can make sure that we're all looking at the same thing.
Well, hello, and thank you from Colorado. Thank you for all your work. It's been a long process. And just a couple of little things at this point. Oddly enough, everybody assumes Nick was 19 because he had already gone through his freshman year there, but he was young for his grade. He's actually 18 years old.
Okay.
So that's an easy one. He was young for his grade. And the other thing is that only spoke to one officer firing through the fog of the tear gas. And in reality, there were 3 officers that fired, but only one maybe at the level who admitted he fired at the level. Another officer who ordered the firing to commence said that he fired from a 30 to 45 degree angle in the air with his gun. He claimed that he did not fire on a level. And yet another officer fired his shotgun in the air. So it wasn't like an order was put out to shoot and only one person fired. And that's misleading in the regard because all 3 officers fired their weapons at that time. And only one admitted that he had fired at the level. And it turned out the bullet that was found and then hidden by police chief at the time was from that same rifle of the officer who had admitted he fired on the level. So those are 2 minor changes. I don't want it to slow down the process in any way. For God's sake, it's been almost 6 years now. And so we would like, if there is an ability to vote on an amendment, but the wording on that would be difficult. And I don't want to slow it down. So it's obvious, it's very easy to vote on, changing his age from 19 to 18. It's more difficult to come up with wording that would indicate that it was more than one officer firing their guns. Unfortunately, I didn't review this until too late to really kind of get this into your packets and such as that.
Okay. Chris, I have a question. So as far as your understanding of the fatal shot, was that Jimmy Joe Stroud? His
Yes.
rifle?
Yes.
Okay.
And he has admitted that night when he was
Right.
being interviewed early in the morning
Yep.
to
I'm
the
won-
KBI.
Chris, I'm wondering if maybe we could talk about the three officers firing, but only one hit, Stroud hitting, if that could be included in the Days of Rage exhibition.
Yes, I think the packet that rather manuscript, it's about 60 pages long, and I think it includes that. in
Right,
there, and it's
okay, yeah.
heavily referenced, yeah.
Which, again, thank you so very much for all your work on that. It's extraordinary.
Okay, no problem. It's been a long journey.
Yes, too long.
And I think maybe an easy way we could fix that, where you could vote on it this evening if you choose, in the sentence, instead of saying an officer fired, you could just say officers fired through the tear gas. And
Yes.
maybe we could do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd be open to that.
That way we don't have to try to make space, which
Yeah.
is challenging.
I think another way to approach this would also be to, instead of saying an officer, Officer Stroud fired through the tear gas, missing the would-be arsonist and striking Nick Rice. That way it names the one who actually did it. And then let the QR code take them into the depth of the other officers.
But that almost implies that he was the only one who fired.
Right,
He's the only one fired at people.
right. But 3 fired.
I really think instead of just leaving it, somehow we need to work in here. It was Officer Stroud who shot Nick Rice. We named Garrett shooting Dowdell. I feel like Stroud should be named for shooting Rice.
Agree.
Yeah, there's been a reluctance in the early part of this journey to name individual officers.
I understand.
Pardon me?
I understand that. Like, it's been highly
Yeah.
controversial.
You know,
Yeah.
I think staff's recommendation, we would hope that people would go to the QR code and get that information, so that this isn't trying to, focus on the negative, but maybe on the positive of this young man. So, but you can certainly now take public comment, and then as a commission discuss possible changes after public comment.
Okay, let's open it up for public comment. We have one in person.
Kerry Altenburn, 431 Forest Avenue, Lawrence. I agree this has been a long process, 56 years actually almost. And it has been almost 6 years to get to this point. So I hope it can be taken care of tonight. Chris Rice has gone through, and the Dowdell family have been kind of taken to the cleaners several times on this. And I think it's time that should stop, and it should be done. I'm not 100% satisfied with the way it came out, but it's going to be the way it's going to be. And it's the least the city of Lawrence can do for these two families. So I would recommend that you do whatever you do tonight, that you can pass it on to the city commission. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Other public comment online?
I think Dennis Domer is speaking, but he's muted.
Would you be able to unmute,
Oh,
Dennis? Let's see.
How about that?
There we go.
Now we can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. I think that since we named the officer who killed Nick Rice, who killed Rick Dowdell, we should name the officer who killed Nick Rice. If it's not negative against Dowdell to name the officer, it's not going to be negative to name the person who killed Nick Rice. We know who this person was, and it should be in the public eye.
I would say this, the officer who killed Tiger admitted, that it was him, and there was no question about it. Once the inquest was held in my brother's, which was, an inquest is never a substitute for a trial, and it should never have been, it was really a bad thing, in a way, because there's no cross-examination allowed. But there were several, I have several references of people, it seemed like the officers were pointing to each other to some extent. And even in the KBI interviews, one of the officers said, I was trying to cover for somebody else and I got caught. And that's a direct quote in the KBI records. So, even though Officer Stroud admitted that night, I may have shot that boy. That was his exact quote in the KBI records. And he said, am I being held on trial for this? And the KBI officer said, the city attorney, I think, is saying, I'm just trying to determine who fired their weapons that night at this point. So I don't think it was quite as clear, although evidence all points. There hasn't been any legal case to determine that officer. Now, I do know that the Lawrence Times got in contact with the officer, who is still alive and living in Oklahoma, as I understand it. And they asked him, did you kill Nick Rice? And he said, I have no idea. And I wouldn't blame that. I could understand that, because it was the fog of war, tear gas going down, and immediately after firing, he had to close his eyes from the tear gas burning on him. So although the evidence is very strong that way, I'm just trying to be totally fair, and I don't want to upset any members of the former police that might be getting upset about something like that. But yes, I am totally 100% sure in my mind that Stroud did that on the order of Sergeant Pinniger, who was in charge that night, and he was the one who shouted the order, shoot him. And he had a more colorful term than what was in there, shoot the MFs. He's an arsonist, so anyway, I'm happy with whatever you want to do. I'm just trying to be completely fair.
So I also have spent time researching this, and to be completely fair, there's Mike McCaffrey, who was a police officer who was there that night, and I actually Stroud talked to McCaffrey directly, and this is quoted in Embattled Warrants, where he's quoted as saying, call all those officers in who were up on top of rock chalk and smell their guns and see who fired it. So they did. The first couple officers came in. I smelled their guns, nothing. Stroud comes in. He's got an M1, M2 carbine, which we know later is the bullet matched his rifle. I said, oh, did you shoot? He said, yeah. It was arson, a felony. I said, well, yeah. So I called Mike Elwell, the county attorney, who came in and got him and left with him. And that's when all the other investigations happened. I think there is no question when you have a bullet fired from a rifle and somebody within hours of the incident saying, yeah, I did it, and the bullet matches his rifle. I think that's, whether it went to trial or not, I think there's enough historic accounts of this, and I think everybody is on the same page, that there is no doubt that Stroud was the one who shot your brother. And I think it's only
Agreed.
fair if we name one, we should name both.
Can I say something here?
Sure.
Dennis Nomer. McCaffrey and Stroud knew each other. They had worked with each other a long time. Stroud was completely honest with McCaffrey. McCaffrey was certain. I don't know what was said to the KBI, what was said any other time, but I know what happened at that point because I interviewed McCaffrey. McCaffrey was on the police department since 1963. He went through all of that. He was a detective at the time. So, given the fact that we all pretty much are certain that it was Stroud, and McCaffrey is absolutely certain, that's who we should be paying attention to, I believe. And I think it's injustice to the memory of Nick Rice not to name his killer.
Agreed. Thank you.
I had never met you, Mr. Rice, and I'm very glad to see you because,
Dennis, I have to interrupt you. Comments need to be directed to the commission. I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. The commission, I'd never met Mr. Rice.
I knew you were going to go there.
So I'm directing this to the commission. I'd never met Mr. Rice, and I think that it's a justice to his family to name this person.
All right. Is there any other public comment? Okay. I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
And before the commission discusses, I just want to say that when we were having the meetings, trying to figure out where to go and what to do, we did have correspondence from previous Chief of Police Ron Olin. We had public testimony in this room of the brother of one of the officers. And so in their mind, it is not clear. And so staff would just like to caution you as you debate this to be very accurate with what you're basing your decisions on.
Could we see the screens again for each of the texts? I don't know how to get there on my computer. I don't know how to get there from,
That's because I have it saved.
yeah, right.
Which one would you?
Well, yeah, so if we first look at, okay, so at Tigers. So Tigers says, Garrett was in hot pursuit, firing as he ran. One of his shots struck Dowdell on the back of his head. Tiger Dowdell died at the scene. I would agree with that statement of keeping that as is.
Okay. What about Rice?
And then Rice, I need to go read the Rice. Okay, so, so then we would say Officer Stroud fired through the tear gas?
Mm-hmm.
Would that be the adjustment we would make on
Well,
Nick Rice's?
well, I think it would be fair to say that 3 officers fired through the tear gas,
Yeah.
even though 2 of them apparently shot at an angle.
That's why I'm trying to figure out how we,
Right,
put Officer Stroud in
right.
Nick Rice's box.
It could be 3 officers fired through the tear gas, and it's determined that Officer Stroud's bullet is the one that killed him.
Yeah,
we could
so
maybe it's
3
believed.
officers fired through the
Believed.
tear gas,
Believed, because it has not been determined.
missing the would-be arsonist, but Officer Stroud struck Nick Rice.
Is believed to have,
Yeah.
or something.
Do we have that much space for those?
That's what I'm asking, if we
There's
have
like
enough space
And
to do
I
it.
just, again, want to caution you how much work Steve put and
Yeah.
Bill put
No,
into
that's why I'm
trying
trying
to
to make it as simple as
condense,
Yeah, it
possible.
should be
to
simple.
get on this.
6 words. We have 6 words to add, it looks like, on that bottom line.
But it's believed Officer Stroud struck Nick Rice.
So, but what I hear you saying, Stan, is that you want to say 3 officers fired through the tear gas.
Right.
So there's 1 extra word.
Mm-hmm.
Missing the would-be arsonist, but striking, but officers, where do we put Officer Stroud?
But it's believed Officer Stroud struck Nick Rice.
Okay.
Yeah, if that fits.
Would that fit?
Close.
I'll try to work with Stephen, because that's not correct grammar, so
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
It might need to be a second sentence.
Yeah, I mean,
I-
the intent is to say 3 shot, and it's believed. that Stroud's hit.
Because I'm wondering if we need all the, if there's other, if there's other words that could be cut or not.
Yeah, there would
You know what I
be.
mean? The police fired tear gas, one officer shouted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do we
they'll-
need,
Yeah, they'll figure it.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
To be technical, the people who fired, the one who fired a shotgun into the air and the one who said he fired Pinniger at 30 to 45 degree angle in the air may not have shot through the tear gas.
Oh,
oh, great.
So if 3 officers fired,
okay, so,
maybe only one went through the tear gas. I don't know.
okay, so we
Yeah.
take those 4 words out.
Yeah, that would leave us plenty of room to,
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Okay.
So this is explaining why we are 6 years.
yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. We are going to
Do
pass
this
this.
project.
We are going to pass this tonight, okay?
Yep.
Okay,
With some
and then what
revisions.
about the last paragraph, Commissioner Klein? Did that answer your question about what started the 4 days of violence? And I did check Commissioner Cunningham, and the correct one is in the packet.
Right. The, I don't, and again, I don't have all this memorized in my, the story memorized in my head. So what it says is on July 16, 4 days of violence erupted following Tiger Dowdell's shooting. So I don't know what triggered Tiger Dowdell's shooting.
well, that's what,
Well, part of that is just, I think, in some of the stuff in that first paragraph, and then also part of it you're really just going to have to get into with the QR code.
There's a lot of context here. I mean, it's that side panel is mostly context about the 60s and then getting into the summer of
the first paragraph, though.
1970. But it's the 60s, it's huge. There's a lot happening, you know, it's broad. It's very broad. Yes, it's okay. I'm not going to quibble with that text. Again, you know, if people have questions like mine, they need to go to the QR code and read the details, and they need to read Mr. Rice's 60-plus page explanation, which I think is the most incredible, detailed explanation. And again, thank you again for all that. I did read that ago. I haven't read it recently, but boy, you did a thorough job.
I think there's a lot of resources out there that need to accompany it, so it's a thorough scholastic search. Mm-hmm. And that's something to work out later with the walk-ins, what all
Well, and we
is-
gave you in your cover memo some of the things that we've already got that we're
Yep.
going to link in there.
Right.
All the Lawrence Times articles will be linked there, and so
Right.
the great thing about the way the Watkins is hosting this is that we can keep adding
Yes.
as we move forward.
Yes.
With hopefully some of the oral interviews.
Yep, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So is there,
You ready for a motion?
with
I-
revisions,
Yes, I move that we recommend to the Lawrence City Commission the attached marker text, marker type, and marker placement. Okay, the attached marker text with slight revisions to Nick Rice's box, including the fact that Officer Stroud killed Nick Rice, to that effect.
and he's 18, not 19.
And he's age 18, not 19. Those are the big ones, okay. And that the marker type, marker placement for the historic markers for Harry, Nick Rice, and Rick Tiger Dowdell. If all that gets to the Lawrence City Commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, next up, item number 2, HRC 250030 at 1001 Indiana Street.
So Commissioners, this is 1001 Indiana Street. It is a rehabilitation project that requires a certificate of approval because the property is located in the context area of the Michael D. Greenlee House at 947 Louisiana Street. And the property is also located in the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District in District UC2, high density, and subject to the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. This is the project location. Here is the subject property with Indiana on your right and 10th Street to the north of the property. This is the existing property. And this is the proposed site plan. The great thing about this project is they're rehabilitating the existing building, and so there are no changes proposed to any of the landscaping area, with the exception of they will be cutting in to the change in grade along the alley to provide for off-street parking. It is going from several units to one unit. This is what they're proposing for that 11th Street elevation, which is actually kind of the front of this building. And they're proposing sort of a porch kind of canopy over the front door and replacing existing doors and windows with egress windows for sleeping units primarily. And then over here on the right, you'll see just a picture window set. And then on the rear of the structure, again, changing some of those windows out. And then on the ends of the structure, having those top windows in for light. And staff is in your staff report. Staff went through and looked at the design criteria and found that the project does meet the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22508, and is recommending that you issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project. The only concern staff has was the entrance canopy did not seem to be as compatible with the existing structure as it might be. And so staff was recommending that you condition the approval on the applicant working with staff to adjust the canopy a little bit to be more compatible with the massing and the scale of the existing structure. And then for the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines, you'll notice in your packet that staff went through and addressed each of the guidelines. And there are several guidelines that this particular project does not meet, but the majority of the design guidelines that it doesn't meet are because they are reusing the structure. And so they're not meeting some of the setbacks and issues like that that are in the guidelines, but this structure has been there for a while, and the topography of the lot also plays in to some of the choices that they have made in the rehabilitation of this non-historic structure. And so staff was of the opinion that not meeting these guidelines would be a unique circumstance because of the reuse of the building and the topography of the lot, and the design guidelines do give the commission the ability to look at extenuating circumstances and approve projects that don't meet the letter of the guidelines. After communications deadline for this morning, I did hear from the applicant, and they have revised the porch that they were proposing, and this is the new revision. Staff has not had a chance to review this against the guidelines to see if it meets the guidelines, but I did want to go ahead and give that to you this evening so that if you wanted this to be part of your conversation, you could. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Well, that was my question, was how the previous canopy, to me, it's an aesthetic situation and not necessarily not meeting the guidelines. And this one looks just, this newer one looks just fine to me as well. So I don't see a problem with the canopy, personally.
I don't either.
I think these revisions are more in keeping with the massing and scale of.
And we can have this conversation with commission discussion if you like.
Yeah.
And then for now, I would stand for any questions about the presentation, and then you can open it up for the applicant to make a presentation and then take public comment.
What were the comments to the applicant that got to the newest submittal? Like, what was it that you were looking for? Like, what direction did you give them?
The same information that was in your staff report when you look, and it was primarily the columns that we're supporting in the previous design. If you noticed how they were very heavy and very tall with a small pier on, the pier is huge and the column is small. That's what I mean to say. And so the balance for staff just didn't meet what you're looking for when you're looking for compatibility with scale and size and massing.
Yeah. Okay. Is there public comment? Or actually, is the applicant present? Sorry.
Hello, I'm Megan Brewery. I'm the applicant, project designer on 1001 Indiana. I think also here is Mike Myers, the architect on the project, and the owner, Jill Ward. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think Glenn did a great job just kind of providing a brief overview of the project, as well as talking about the two considerations, the porch and the parking. To elaborate on the parking, the guideline that's not met is the 2.5-foot retaining walls, and that's just simply not possible to add parking on the west side of the building with the current topography. So that's why that's different. And then with the porch, yeah, we were just hoping to make that more of the main entrance to the building, more similar to other buildings that have a front porch in the neighborhood. So we'd be open to feedback, I think, from the commissioners if there's any comments.
I have a question.
Yeah.
My question is the pitch of the main house, of the roof, the pitch of the roof.
Yeah.
Are you trying to match that with the entry canopy pitch?
Well, I think in the revised version, we're trying to match the pitch to the existing building. In the prior version, it was shown with an asphalt roof, so I was just showing it with a greater slope, so that way it'd be under a warranty. So,
I understand. Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Is there public comment?
Good evening. Hi. My name is Samuel Carter, 66046, and I don't exactly have a position on this project. I've got
Sam, don't touch that button.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Just more of a general observation, and this doesn't exactly have relevance to your kind of formal decisions, but there is a trend of historic multifamily buildings being converted to single occupancy, single family homes, and I think you see this a lot more in Chicago, some other larger Midwestern cities. I think it's frankly, I think it's kind of a sad trend, losing the housing that those buildings historically provided. I know that's not like what your criteria are. I just kind of want to make a note and observation that it's kind of this is a little unfortunate that it is the direction that seems a lot of these places are trending. Again, nothing, like I don't know who applicant is, and I don't, I have nothing against them, and it's their property, and they can do what they want to, and stuff like that. But it is just, I think, interesting to note that it is much, much harder to add housing than it is to take it away. Thank you.
And just for clarification, while this was a multi-unit structure prior, it is going to be congregate living,
Right.
which is also has several tenants.
That's great. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. It'll actually have more tenants in the proposed project than it does currently.
May I?
Sure.
Thank you. That's really good. I'm warned by that, so thank you.
Is there any other public comment online or otherwise?
Hi, my name is Jill Ward, and I'm from Wichita, Kansas. My zip code is 67205. I purchased this property. My son was a student at the University of Kansas and came home for Easter and was killed in a hit-and-run accident. And so we have done many things for his foundation in the city of Lawrence, and I know it would be very important for him to own a house in Lawrence. It was his favorite place in the world. So we have purchased this house in his honor and are redoing it, remodeling it to have it for him. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll bring it back to the commission. Comments, questions, motions?
I would like to make a motion to approve the application with the changes to the front porch structure as, oh, there it is. Yeah. So I'm going to redo that motion. I would like to make a motion that we find that the proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project with the condition that the proposed entrance canopy be revised and approved by staff prior to the release of the project.
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No one. Passes 5-0 to 1 with Commissioner Hernly abstaining.
I would like to make a motion to find that the proposed project meets the intent of the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines for the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District, with the exceptions for the required setbacks, entrance, canopy, porch, parking area along Indiana Street, and height of retaining walls are approved due to the unique circumstances of the reuse of the existing structure and the topography of the lot.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0 to 1 with Commissioner Hernly abstaining. Thank you. I think this is a fantastic project.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3, HRC 250031 at 1112 Tennessee Street.
I'm going to get Commissioner Hernly.
Oh, yes. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're at 1112 Tennessee Street. This is a request for the demolition of an existing structure and new construction of a replacement structure. This is an Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines review because the property is located in UC3 medium density of the overlay district. In the center of the screen, you'll see highlighted in light blue the subject property. And there may be some concern or some consideration, so I just want to point out in the revisions that you did to Chapter 22, even though the context area touches the property, it does not touch the structure, and by definition in Chapter 22, if it doesn't touch the structure, then the parcel is not included in the context area. So this is just the Oread Design Guidelines review. This is the existing structure, the main elevation, and then just quickly going around the sides and the rear. It's a great sleeping porch that's actually being used currently, but based on what I could find, I do think it was an addition at some point, as well as there's an obvious addition at the rear of the structure. And then there's that north elevation and the rest of the rear. And again with the rear. I did take a picture of the windows because it was something that we might want to discuss later. They are mostly in the historic areas of the house, the original wood windows, and even a couple of them had original historic panes in them of the wavy glass. It was really hard to get some really good photos in the basement, as it typically is with basements, but just wanted to show you a few things. As you noticed in your staff report, staff was not supportive of the demolition of this structure because we were able to trace it back, we believe, to the 1880s. And it does still maintain those character-defining elements that make it a character-defining structure according to the information that's included in the front of the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. There's a big description of the neighborhood, what's character-defining, and then it talks about different things you see in the neighborhood. One of the reasons I put this photo up is when I went and toured the structure with the applicant. It has what I would say almost complete foundation failure, and the construction quality in the basement gives me concern for what may be in the walls and the attic as far as construction quality and type, as to if you were to replace the foundation of the structure, whether or not the remaining historic portions of the structure could withstand the work. So I'll talk a little bit about that again in just a second. But this is showing you that, like many of our houses in Oread, this one has had notches out of some of the supporting beams. This one actually had 2 logs as supporting beams for the first floor joist, and then this is a sample of what the floor in the basement looks like, which can give you some indication of the amount of movement that's taking place. And here you'll see a typical section. This is part of the interior foundation. This is actually almost in the middle of the structure. And the previous owners have tried to stabilize the movement of the structure and some of the foundation issues with concrete buttressing walls. They're on most sides of the foundation, but sometimes when you do that, it's the right thing, and sometimes it's the right thing, but it causes other issues. And it looks like over time, this particular building has continued to shift laterally and vertically in certain areas, which have caused some pretty significant issues with the foundation. And then some of the floor joist and floors for that first level are in significant decay, most likely as evidenced by when you're walking on the surface, and lots of very soft spots. My husband fell through a building one time, so when I hit those soft spots for the rest of the tour, I always do the one step forward, tap, tap, and then move on. And so that is what I did with the structure. It does have some significant issues. This was not unfortunately included in your packet. It got left out. But this is showing a page that was in the structural engineer's assessment of the structure, showing some of the changes in slope all around the house to indicate where we're having some really good shifting in the structure. And there are most houses have some slope when you're walking on them that are this age, but this one has really on the first and second floor some significant areas of slope in the flooring itself, which indicates that things underneath and on the outside aren't exactly what they need to be. And you can see a little bit better on this. This right here is that wall that I was showing earlier. So it's not a situation like on a corner like we usually have, or on a side with some foundation issues where you can just prop it up and redo the foundation. It's part of the really bad part is right here in the middle. So staff thinks the most logical way to repair the foundation would be to brace the house and lift it and put a new foundation underneath it. And my concern is that I don't know what would happen when you do that. I did not get behind the walls or in the attic. I don't know what the rest of the construction is like, but some of the construction in the basement gives me pause as to if this would survive that type of movement. The other thing that was really difficult for staff was that this is not a listed property. It is in the overlay district. It is certainly historic. It is character defining, but there are no financial incentives to help defray the cost, which would be significant to brace it to the extent that you need to lift it and put a new foundation in it. Just sometimes we see these and it's pretty evident that it's been going over time. Sometimes we think, there's this demolition by neglect, because we see that as well. And so I asked the applicant, because I know some of his work, if he would provide us with some information on, since he has owned the building, all the things that he has done. Because his original intent was not to demolish the structure. And so on the screen are the things that he has done since he purchased the property in 2015 to try to extend the life of the structure. And most of those include additional supports, and some replacing defective 2x4 joist in the floor framing. And then you'll see that he is one that added the concrete knee wall to the interior basement on 3 sides. KHRI had a photo that is undated in the database, but as you can tell from this photo, the property has not changed. The likely guess on the photo, it's either 70s or 90s. Those are 2 times we did surveys in this area. One thing to note that in KHRI, it always defaults to that it's not eligible unless there has been a determination that it is or is not eligible. And so this one was never, it doesn't have a determination of eligibility for it. So while it says it's not eligible for the National Register or the Kansas Register, which might avail them to those tax credit programs, it does not have an official determination of eligibility right now. Included in your staff report were the kind of Sanborn maps where we trace this back to 1889. And if you'll look, you can see really that I feel fairly confident based on what I saw in the basement and this, the drawings and the Sanborn maps that this is the same structure. And so we can get it back to 1889, and then all the way, of course, it stays the same until 1927. And this area was not resurveyed in 49, so they were still using the 27 maps. The applicant is proposing with the demolition request new construction, which is a guideline in the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. And this is the site plan for that proposed new construction. You can see that it is bigger. The footprint is larger than the existing structure on the site, but it is certainly within the size of structures in the Oread neighborhood. And then this would have the parking along the alley. It would be a 2-unit structure, but the great thing about the design is that from the front, it still looks like a single dwelling structure. The porch is in proportion. The height is complementary to the rest of the streetscape and this part of the Oread designated overlay district. The windows are taller than they are wide and spaced appropriately. And then this is looking at the rear of the structure. Again, you have the materials listed in your packet, but they have chosen compatible materials for the district. And again, along the sides, the roof pitch, the placement of windows, and the dimensions of the windows, all compatible with the overlay district. And then this is actually the south side of the structure. And let me go back because I didn't point this out, but you can see it. Well, we may have to look at the floor plans, but the entrance to the back unit does not face the front Tennessee Street. It is kind of hidden, and so you don't really see it as a separate entrance. And it's not uncommon even with historic structures where you had your main front door and then you walked around the wraparound porch and there was a door there, usually to some other use for the property, an office or something like that. So this is kind of reminiscent of that. Mr. Carter, who was here earlier, asked staff some questions that I told him I would cover in the presentation. And one of the things that I want to clarify that the project is not listed, and so in the body of the staff report, when it's going through, does it meet the guideline or not? In D2, it says that it does not meet this guideline, but that is for listed properties. This is not a listed property, so that is incorrect, but in your recommendation from staff, it was not included. That was an oversight, so it is just D1 that it does not meet for the guidelines. And then features that define the character of a listed property, so we just talked about that one. Concern about whether or not they could occupy safely. Yes, as our architects on the board can tell you, most historic structures don't meet modern code. That doesn't mean they're not safe. It just means we have evolved in what we look at for life safety. And so, yes, it is. It does have an approved rental license. It is safe for people to be in the structure, but it does need some attention. Then we talked about the KHRI saying it's not eligible and that it hasn't had a determination for that. And then there was a question about being historically significant or character for the neighborhood. And at the bottom of the screen is what character defining property, what we're talking about when we use that term. This does not relate to Chapter 22 like the question has, because this is not a Chapter 22 review. This is specifically the Oread Design Guidelines review that is part of the Land Development Code Chapter 20. So it doesn't have to meet historically significant from Chapter 22. In the beginning of the Oread Design Guidelines document, as I mentioned, there's a lot of information about what makes the character of the neighborhood. And then here you see when we're using that term, this is what we're looking at. The overall form, the materials, craftsmanship, details, the layouts, the site context, as far as is that part of the character of the neighborhood, and for this house it appears to be. So staff rarely supports demolition of character-defining historic structures and would recommend the commission find that the demolition of the historic structure does not meet Guideline D1 of Chapter 4 of the Design Guidelines. However, staff would like to note that in the beginning of the guidelines, and there is a section that's shown on your screen here that says the commission has the authority and discretion to examine the whole situation or extenuating circumstances and approve projects that don't meet the letter of the guidelines. And staff would encourage commission discussion based on the engineer's report, the applicant's presentation that's coming up, and then we can answer questions if we need to. I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect. My looking at the structures just based on my history and knowledge of historic structures. So if the commission approves the demolition, then staff would recommend that you find that the proposed new structure meets the development and design standards for new construction in the Oread neighborhood. And with that, I'll be happy to answer or stand for any questions you may have.
Yeah, one quick question. How many units are in there now? Is it a single unit?
I believe it is, yes.
I have a question for you, Lynn. When you went and inspected the property, were you finding in the basement area, in the pictures it just looked like it was black, is that, did it smell like mold or did it look like it was fire damage too?
I didn't see any fire damage in the basement. The owner did mention that when they were doing work in other places in the house, they had found charred areas, so there has probably been a fire there at some point. I will say it was a super clean basement, and he has taken really good care and the upkeep of the house, because when this first came in, I took a look at the picture and said, I don't think so. And then, when you get in there, there is debate. So, but I didn't see any evidence of a fire.
Okay, thank you.
So, Lynn, in terms of character-defining structures, in your mind, what are the specific features of this house that make it a character-defining structure?
Well, you know, when we're looking at character-defining structures in a district setting, which is kind of what you do with the overlay, you're looking at the size and the form and the architectural detailing for this particular one, like the wraparound front porch, columns that appear probably not original but historic, the windows, the window placement, the roof and the roof pitch. Those are all the things, and then you look at the setbacks of the structure on the property. Is that consistent with the overall character of the neighborhood?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's no other questions. Applicant present?
Hi, I'm Jared Hoke of Hokeley Architecture and Design, and I'd like to start off just by responding to the question about the fire. In the structural engineer's assessment report on page 3, it does mention that there was evidence of fire damage in the basement on the first floor framing. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I fully agree with the character of this house. I mean, it's a wonderful, historic, folk Victorian house. I mean, wonderful character. And, you know, we entered into the project with the owner with the intention of saving this property. We wanted to keep the existing structure. We wanted to do an addition and renovation similar to what we did at 1332 Kentucky, 1336 Kentucky. It did not even dawn on us that we would be doing a demolition. I visited the house from the street at first, looking at it from the street, and it looked perfect. It looked amazing. I was excited to work on an addition to this house. It had so much character. However, I stepped on the property, started looking around. The deficiencies became quite apparent. At that point, it was in our best interest to bring in a structural engineer. We hired Apex Structural Engineering to do a structural assessment report. Went through the house. They found a number of deficiencies. There's a deteriorating stone foundation and failing concrete buttresses, failing both vertically and horizontally or laterally. Porch posts without foundations, which is leading to a sagging porch structure, which also is kind of holding up that pseudo sleeping porch, which is now kind of like a party room, but which is scary. Lack of foundations at the window bay, squishy and bouncy floors on the first and second floors, floor framing sagging in all directions. Some areas up to 10 inches of difference from one corner to the other corner. Diagonal cracking at plaster walls, a failed first floor ceiling finish due to undersized and overspanned second floor framing, which then led the owner to basically putting up a plywood ceiling in order to provide some lateral rigidity as well. And undersized, overspanned, and discontinuous first floor framing with unclear load paths and fire damage. The conclusions of the structural report basically say that reconstruction or replacement of the foundation wall is necessary to stabilize the foundation. This would require the structure to be lifted. They also state that the amount of deterioration, modification, and damage to the observed wood first floor structure is significant. And any effort to improve the structure would require the removal and replacement of major structural components and systems, including the first floor joists, the second floor joists above the dining room, dropped beams, vertical support structure, the placement of adequate foundation elements where none currently exist, and the replacement of existing inadequate foundations. So based upon their report, they're basically saying we're reconstructing the entire house to save the house. I honestly don't even know how we would do that. And kind of thirdly, due to the undersized and discontinuous nature of the first floor framing and the toenail connections, there is a high probability of structural failure when the structure is lifted. So even if we go through this process to try to save the structure, there's a very high probability that as we raise this structure up, it could collapse upon itself. So we're kind of in an awkward situation because we have a structure that has basically kind of lived past its lifespan. It has undersized structural members, it has damaged structural members, it has structure upon structure upon structure, layers of structure to try to hold it up in its current condition. And as Lynn kind of mentioned, this is not an example of demolition by neglect. The owner took possession of this in 2015. He's done what he could to make it work. And at this point, there's not really much path forward for him because the structural elements need to be replaced in order for it to continue working as a habitable house. So I guess I would just like to add that, it's understood that the members of the Historic Resources Commission are charged with protecting Lawrence's historically significant structures. However, it must also be recognized when structures deteriorate beyond their serviceable lifespan, cannot be feasibly rehabilitated, and begin to pose a threat to life safety. And I believe that after 138 years, that's the situation with this house, that it's gotten beyond the lifespan of, that it can continue to live. So, knowing that, I just ask that the commission consider approving the demolition for this project and allowing for a new structure to be built. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes.
What physical materials could be saved for putting into a new construction?
What can be salvaged?
And reused, like stone, windows, porch railing, gingerbread.
If it becomes new construction, the existing windows would not meet current energy codes. So I would, because I was originally going to say the windows could be salvaged, but not necessarily.
It all depends on how it's demolished.
Well,
I will back up. The owner is committed to the idea of salvaging the existing windows and donating them. So that was something that Lynn asked us when she did her site visit, and yes, that is something that he would very much be open to doing.
Okay.
I just don't think I don't think, for example, windows could be put back into a new structure.
No.
Right.
No.
So-
And I don't think what you could sell out of salvage material is going to make up the cost difference based on your cost comparison.
Correct.
So, Jared, what's the square footage, the finished square footage of the proposed new building?
Do we have that on the plans?
I was pulling that up to look.
Lynn's pulling it up. I was
because
focusing.
the old was 1,900 square feet.
9, 8.
It looks like where it has the
A
3D
is
rendering.
2964, and Unit B is 2960 for a total of 5924.5.
And that includes the basements.
What is it currently?
That's all three levels, right?
Yes.
Right. So, I know you didn't put together the cost proposal sheet. It looks like that came from Kern Inc. Real Estate.
Correct.
My quick calculations are that that's about $100 a square foot for the construction cost at $616,000.
No, the cost assessment was based upon rebuilding the structure as it is. like rebuilding the
Right,
current structure.
the cost
Okay.
analysis is
Okay,
what
so-
does it cost to
Okay.
repair this
So what?
versus
Okay, so
building
what then is the square footage of the existing building?
1,900 square
It was
feet.
1,900 square feet in July of 2011 when it was up for sale.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just so I'm clear,
got it.
right, so the 786, 984, that's to take what we have and basically make it what it needs to be in a perfect world.
Correct.
Which we hopefully could do, versus the 616, which is to go ahead, proceed with the renovation or the demolition, new construction.
No, that's not accurate.
That's what I want to see.
So what that would be is to build back the exact same size as what's there. What's being proposed is twice as big as what's there.
Well, the 786, if I'm understanding, would be to fix what is there now.
Yeah, to rehabilitate it.
Right.
And then the 616 is the new construction.
The 16 would be if the new construction was identical to the original construction.
I got you.
Right,
I
yeah.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what's proposed is basically twice that size. So, I mean, the comparison is fair. Okay, thank you.
That's tough, thanks.
Good catch.
I don't know if you do this kind of evaluation or not, or if you've thought about having it. When you were running through your presentation, I was wondering if the building would have enough significance and integrity to make a state listing, to be determined to be eligible.
I have not done the history on the building, so I don't know if it would meet that criteria. It would depend on the history as well as the architecture for individual listings.
So there's a little short addition at the end that was provided by Monica Davis. I don't know if you had a chance to look through that.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, it looks like it has some pretty good connections with a carpenter in town. Yep.
Yeah, and then, so there's that, and then there's the integrity of the structure, if it, not the structural integrity of the structural members, but the existence of the original material and spaces still existing. Yeah.
And we can probably discuss that in
Okay.
commissioner discussion, and you would probably want, if you don't have any more questions for the applicant, move on to public comment.
Okay, thank you.
I think you can sit.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Public comment?
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Brown, Lawrence Preservation Alliance. I toured this house yesterday morning with a fellow board member, G.W. Weld. G.W. is the principal of Cornerstone Construction. He has experience both with new construction and rehab construction. And we really appreciated Mark and Jared letting us tour the house and meeting us there and talking to us a little bit and sharing some information. I know that's not always easy, and we really appreciate it. This house does have some problems. We didn't go upstairs too much. We were on the first floor a little bit. We didn't go any more than that. And we were in the basement. We saw the buttress walls were built halfway up the stone rubble foundation, and we noticed several vertical cracks in the buttress walls. So there's things going on, and we can see the subpar attachments and framing members and other wood defects that's pointed out by the structural engineer. But the house is still occupied. This is the first time I've ever walked through a house up for demolition and somebody's living there. You wouldn't want to go upstairs and poke around and check the second floor framing because it's a lived-in space. And I believe the structural engineer, although they were really severe in their report, did put something in there to where if the applicant decided to go forward with trying to work on the house, they would offer their services for that. So LPA, and we're torn by this. The house, you look at it, it's a part of the streetscape in the Oread. It fits. Take it out. Actually, we think the replacement plan is nice, but things are just different. And here we are, demolition is final. What do you do? But we do agree, LPA does, that a complete lift of the house to pour a new basement foundation might be a risk that they wouldn't want to undertake. But here's the thing. We consider that type of method to replace a foundation somewhat unusual. Lots of houses have been repaired without being totally lifted up on blocks, and then there's a brand new basement poured under it. We think there's other ways to do it, and we know of structures in Lawrence that have foundations as bad and or worse than this that have achieved new foundations without a lift of the total house all at one time. So LPA is feeling like, what are there feasible alternatives here? We would like to explore that, and if we could find alternatives that could be agreed upon that would save the house and ensure its safety. In your discussion, tonight you might choose to go another route. You might be ready for an up or down vote. I don't know. But if you're feeling kind of uneasy about it like we are, what we suggest is that you consider deferring this for a month to allow LPA to convene a group of 4 or 5 experienced rehabbers. We know the ones that are out there, to look at this house in a little more detail and come up with try to develop an alternative plan. GW would be one. We know of others. We want to get about a group of 5 GWs over there to go through the basement with Jared, get the full report on that, and then convene the group in an office setting on another day to see if they could come to an agreement on a design plan for repairs to the foundation and the basement framing structure. And then once that was done, before your next meeting, LPA could write those thoughts up in a report so that you could look at them and just kind of gauge if this might be something that would be doable. We feel like as the preservation organization in this town, this would be the least we could do, and we would feel better about it if we did it. We know the applicant has a difficult job on their hands. They inherited this, they didn't cause it. So our offer is in the spirit of a cooperative barn raising experience of design ideas. And if no successful plan comes forth from that, that also could inform your decision on how to proceed.
Thanks, Dennis. Is there other public comment? Okay. I do have a question for the applicant.
Is there any online?
Was there one online?
Is there anybody online, Ellie?
I didn't think so.
If anyone online would like to speak, they can raise their hand at this time. I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay. Question for the applicant, if you want to come up. So in the cost analysis, I just want to make sure I understand that conversation real quickly. The new construction cost in your cost comparison was to rebuild exactly what's there, not what's being proposed as the replacement to the demo structure, correct?
Correct.
So what's the budget for the new construction of your proposed project?
I don't know. I haven't covered that with the owner, but the requirements for demolition are to provide a cost analysis of what the market value would be
Right.
to replace that. So that's what we provided.
That's why I'm asking you now, because it's outside of those parameters, what you're proposing as your replacement structure cost would be. Because we also have to approve that project.
Chair,
But that
and
doesn't-
we typically don't
that
ask
doesn't
for that
matter.
information because it's not relevant to whether or not a structure meets the guidelines.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. I got plenty of others. Anybody else have?
I have a different kind of a question, but go ahead.
Nope.
I'm trying to understand the staff does not support the demolition language. I don't get it. I can't tell from that language, is that staff does not support demolition or staff does support demolition?
Does not.
Does not.
Does not support demolition. Just, the language is very confusing to me. There's two double negatives in there.
It does not meet the guidelines for demolition?
This is currently a rental property?
Yes,
The plan is continuous rental property?
yes.
And do we know how many people are living in it?
Currently, I think 5.
Okay.
So here's a concern I have. Since it's a rental property, we vote to not demolish it. They do what they have to do to keep it survivable for the foreseeable future. But we're still looking at something which is already going downhill. And it's going to take an incredible amount of money to prevent it from going downhill. As a rental property, I don't see that money being invested in that. So we might be sitting here, if we don't demolish, sitting here in 5 years saying, okay, well, it has to go now. It might be 10 years, but at some point, I don't know if this house is salvageable no matter what happens. I hate to say that.
I can, okay, never mind.
So on the flip side of that, because where I'm struggling is pretty much demolishing of a character defining structure that does represent the neighborhood so well. It's kind of a hard stop, and I feel like what's been presented tonight hasn't been enough to sway me otherwise. I would like to pursue a DOE, a determination of eligibility, so we know that answer for sure. You know, if it was rehab, would it be eligible? So that's where I'm at. I'm in favor of deferment to figure out a few more answers.
Am I allowed to comment on this?
Sure.
The structural engineering assessment basically says that we have to
Right.
replace all the floor framing on the first floor and second floor in addition to the foundation system. So we're not only talking about the foundation system.
Right, I understand all that.
We're talking about basically needing to rebuild a house just to retain the historic structure, which will no longer be a historic structure because we'll be rebuilding it as new. Like we'll have to build all new floors. We'll have to build
I'm not
all new
convinced with
walls.
what's presented tonight is enough information to sway me otherwise. I feel like the structures report is exactly what it is from one engineer. My experience, I haven't walked through this house, but I've seen things much worse still be rehabilitated. So I think I would like to see another eyes on it, not just one structural engineer, but others, to see if there could be a plan for rehabilitation. Because I know I've seen far worse come back from the dead.
I have a question for the applicant. The difference in first floor elevation, the 10 inches,
Yeah.
is that from, the southeast corner is 10 inches lower than the the northwest corner? And the northwest corner would be
The north,
at the porch?
well, the southeast corner is the lowest,
The southeast, okay. Yes.
but it's not from southeast to northwest because the northwest corner is low too. It almost,
It's like a Additions falling off.
Yeah, the addition's falling off, but there's also falling off, there's also settling and slumping to the middle of the house, of the original house.
I was just
of the original
wondering
existing.
if it had anything to do with that glassed-in sleeping porch.
It didn't look like it. It looks like it's the addition on the back that's settled the
The addition on the back is settled the most,
Okay.
but there is settling within the middle of the original structure.
And there were some photos that showed the slab in the basement kind of broken up, and it's pretty common in that neighborhood
Yes.
for, the soil to expand and contract, and so it's not unusual for the center of the house to be at a different elevation than the perimeters. Sometimes they push up. In this case, it's down, so it's just so.
And we think this is a 1920s house?
No, it's
No.
a
Oh, no,
it's
it's
an
definitely-
1883 house.
Yeah, it's definitely 1880s, and I found evidence of, you mentioned, okay,
Well, in addition to the huge, long,
Addie Osborne was mentioned, and she bought the house in 1904. So, I mean, it goes back.
Okay, because
it goes out to 71, but yeah.
I hate to see historic buildings be demolished. I'll say that. But I also know that not all things were built to last. We have 50-year buildings, we have 100-year buildings, we have 500-year buildings. We have thousands of year buildings. And if this is not much more than a 100-year building, it's been
137.
137 years.
I think that's what somebody said in there.
Right, and so that, if, I was just thinking through the process of jacking up the house or restructuring it, replacing the structural members to overcome the deficiencies of the structure. And what I know from, means and methods of construction, not being a contractor, but witnessing it, you lose a lot of original material when you undertake a replacement of the structural members because you have to get to them. And so we're talking about the foundation and the main beams, the floor framing, most are all. And I just wonder what would be left if you did that. And if you didn't have to replace all of that and you tried to jack it up or even it out, then your plaster is likely going to have to be replaced. And I wonder about the siding. I don't know much about the siding. And then I also wonder about the windows, because as the settling happens, the windows, slide out a square, and then if you jack it up too much, it's broken and there's a lot there that has to be replaced. So.
And I'll just add, I didn't have a lot of pictures of the interior. I should have put some of those in. But it's already had a percentage of the original lath and plaster replaced. And there are no major character defining elements on the interior as far as significant design of baseboards or trim or the windows. It's all pretty stock and standard, with some of it having been removed and replaced.
Got it.
It does appear on the first floor that the original wood floors are there. And on the second, I believe, most of them are there.
Lynn, does it look like the original stair is
No.
there?
I don't think it is. I know Jared has been in there more than I, but I know at least the part that goes into what is now the kind of dining room area has been altered.
Okay.
And it's in an odd location to be able to service the front house,
Okay.
the front of the house.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that is really good to know, because in this situation, my experience has been my request for, a favorable determination of eligibility has been denied because I don't have enough original material there.
Yeah, it wasn't clear to me with the pictures that there was that much already gone.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a critical piece, because
Yeah, that's huge.
I've worked on houses in the same block that are eligible, but they retain interior pieces that make them individually eligible. I think this house would be eligible for sure as part of a district.
Yeah.
But if the interior is changed to a point that it wouldn't be individually eligible, that would make a big difference in my mind. I mean, because, I mean, the structural report is fine. I mean, it's not, it's, if the house was able to be listed, all of the repairs that are recommended would be tax credit eligible as an income producing property at 60%.
Yeah. Right.
When you use that 60% and apply it to the cost that was proposed, it's actually $200,000 less than what would be the replacement cost. So in my mind, the key is whether it's eligible or not. From the exterior, it looks eligible.
Right.
But if it's not eligible based on interior changes, I could be convinced otherwise. But tonight, I'm not.
I'm with you. I think that's why I brought up the DOE. First thing is.
And then if you look at page 25 of 59.
Could you put those photos up again, please?
Just go to your packet.
Stan, you were asking about the
I didn't print
stair
the
and
entire
photo
thing.
10 and the engineer's report.
Okay.
Got it.
That's the side of the staircase, and it actually turns and comes into the dining room. So I think it has, that part has been altered.
Gotcha. All right.
Scroll down.
Pretty hideous.
And then you'll notice in the kitchen photos that are attached to that, and then the dining room below, you can see where there's no cove molding or baseboards or, but most of the window surrounds are still there.
Right.
So really all that's left is windows and exterior.
Looks like there's a guardrail on the second story.
And there's no stained glass or gingerbread anywhere?
It was never intended for any of that. It's not that kind of house.
I mean, the windows are nice. They're 4/4.
It is shocking that people are still living there.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's not that scary. I've been in a lot scarier.
But that's why I'm, that's why I'm weighing everything we're talking about here.
So, Lynn, I have a question for you. If we requested an IDOE, what's the process for that to happen?
Well, that's a very good question. I don't think we have enough history for an IDOE at this point in time.
An IDOE.
Certainly, we would need some additional photographs of the interior and exterior. I do not know what their time frame is right now, how busy they are, how long it would take to get that IDOE. We would have to come up with a plan with the applicant to try to figure out how to get all that information. And would probably ask for some help from commissioners to help with the history piece. We don't have the staff capacity to generate it, I guess
understand.
is what I'm getting at.
So I know there's the formal process for initial determination of eligibility with the State Historic Preservation Office, that process. I mean, for me, I think the history piece could eventually come into place. For me, it's the interior, what's left on the interior. I mean, I would be satisfied with not an official application and determination. I would be satisfied with a SHPO staff person touring the house and giving their opinion. of whether they think it would be eligible based on how much character is still in place.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do a site visit, do a soft, is there enough here to even pursue an IDOE?
Right.
And then you would want it to come back to the commission, or would you want to do that as a possible condition? Or do you want the whole thing to come back to the commission?
I think we should approve, make that a deciding factor, but say if the IDOE says, no, it would not be eligible, then we have approval for the demolition and the new construction.
Oh. Yeah.
Because we have no comments about the new construction,
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, I would second that.
yeah. You did a good job on the new construction
That's great.
I'm
proposal.
just trying to find a way that I know,
Yeah, I understand.
you know, because the sooner they get started, then they can lease in August. We're
Yeah.
kind of in
Yeah.
that crunch
Yep.
time right now
Yep.
for applicants.
Yep.
Do you want to make a motion on that?
I don't, because I don't think it's going to get it. I don't think
Okay.
that it is eligible. I have been denied and had more.
Oh, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just think it's
I think
time wasted.
if I just had more eyes on the inside, I'd feel so much better. For myself, like if there were just more interior pictures, I would definitely be like, yeah, this isn't going to go anywhere.
I mean, one thing that Lynn and I kind of discussed at her site visit was the potential of, deferring this to next month and allowing the commission members to actually come and tour the house to, see the conditions. That was mostly based upon the conditions of the structure, the structural conditions of the
Yeah.
structural framing members, but also in this case, what's left there from a, interior detail standpoint.
And we have done that in the past. You would just
Yeah.
arrange with me and not go as a commission.
Right.
We wouldn't have to advertise. We would just set up appointments and do it individually.
Well, some of us I am a layperson who has simply aesthetic opinions, so I would be worthless. I would prefer deferring the project, but going with what Dennis Brown recommended and having some other professional, what do you call them, rehabbers, to look at the place along with you, Mr. Hoke, to have the professionals decide, examine and decide what do they think is salvageable, what do they think, is it worth it, is there a possibility for any kind of a Kansas or National Register application and tax credits, et cetera. I'd rather have the professionals look at that.
And I can certainly make arrangements for SHPO staff to come look at it
And
within
SHPO.
that timeframe.
Yeah, and SHPO.
I think path of least resistance, and I don't know about you guys, like, how you guys feel about this, but yeah, just me personally, I'd feel better having eyes on it and knowing if going for an IDOE and trying to schedule a whole bunch of people to go in and provide reports. I think path of least resistance is just schedule those who want to go see it, go see it. In the meantime, if you, Jen, could do some historical research on it, just so we would have kind of a litmus test of how much history could be gained, like.
Well, I started that, but I didn't, I couldn't really find the earliest news article I found was from,
Well, I'm not saying give the report now, I'm just saying.
Right, I'm just saying, I started history. I started doing some history on it, okay? And I started looking at who owned it and when and
Yeah,
so forth.
that's all
So
provided right here. So that part's done.
what page are you on? I
The
can't.
last.
Yeah, there was some historical information
Yeah.
that was shared in a comment by.
So if you could
Right,
find
'cause I
out
didn't-
further stuff.
Yeah, 'cause
Keep
I
going,
mean-
because it even includes the
'Cause I
newspaper,
think-
like
yeah.
all this.
There you go, okay. Because I found the lot number late, so I didn't do all the lot number.
That's fine,
you
it's
know,
already,
stuff.
that part's done, so, but if you could dig through
Oh my
and
God,
add to
Sam
this.
Walker. Know him.
Okay, well, let's
Okay.
hold off on
Right.
your
Not right now.
Yeah.
I know.
So I make a motion that we defer until HRC members who are wanting to go see the house and decide, within the next 30 days, defer it for 1 month if we need to go down these other paths of looking at getting an IDOE so we know the state's position on whether or not it would be eligible to be listed, thus the tax credits. Does that sound reasonable?
So we are still going to ask SHPO to send a staff person to look.
It would be great if they
Give
could,
a
if they could in the next
formal
30 days.
opinion.
I might know somebody.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
might be able to get somebody to.
Yeah, I just don't know if
walk
that could
through
happen in the next 30 days, but it'd be great if they could.
Yeah,
And then get just a soft test on that.
yeah.
Second time.
Okay. All those in
Is
favor
that a
of
motion?
Yes, that was.
Okay.
a motion to defer until HRC and SHPO staff can have a site visit while Commissioner Klein digs further.
Monica's already done the research.
If you want to dig further,
Feel free.
yes.
Motion by Commissioner Buchanan, seconded by
Dearborn.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes 6-0. All righty, miscellaneous items, doesn't look like there's any. So adjournment.
I move we adjourn?
Do we have to move?
I don't know.
I think you're
Everybody else
supposed
does.
to. We haven't been, but
And there's supposed to be
I
a
gotta
second, and then you
double
don't vote.
Yeah,
You don't have to vote, but I think.
There's a
somebody
motion
has
and a
to
second,
move.
okay.
and then you just leave.
Use, I second, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Phil, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, I'm in the process